say hello to everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for coming. Mayor, did you want to say a few words before we get started?
Good morning.
Good morning. That's it, huh?
That's it. Thanks for coming.
We got a few people coming on in, but that's okay. We're supposed to hear back, Mr. Cotton tells me we'll hear back on the refreshments shortly. And so if you could hold tight, for those of you who may not have had a little breakfast this morning, hold tight, please.
Let me make this announcement, Dr.
Yes.
Since this coming Monday at 4, for those who may not know, I think everybody knows, at 8:30, Dr. Lampton? 8:30, the NAACP will be hosting the breakfast in honor of Dr. King's celebration at the multipurpose building on Memphis Street. So we invite all of you to come out and be a part of that celebration. And once again, I want to thank everyone for giving us the time on Saturday morning. We could be doing so many other things. We're thankful that you were committed to trying to move forward with this initiative. So thanks again, once again, for coming out, and we hope to have a very productive initial date. And this is just a starting point. So we want to understand that we leave here today not at the destination, but on the journey.
All right.
Okay.
Right. Thank you so much. And we do 3 individuals who have who the researcher, Dr. Nkosi Ajanak, who has asked us. We really thank these 3 individuals for being here, for our presence here in Holly Springs. And this is one of the publications that we did, and it's called Poems of Consciousness. And this is a book that Dr. Nkosi Ajanak, he is the researcher that put together this national plan for how to live out the American dream. He asked, and it's the subheading, and we'll talk more about this, is Sisterhood is the Key. And the poem book was done as a dedication to that principle. And we will talk about that. That's fundamentally what underlies this new science that we're going to introduce you to today. So the first of which I'm going to ask to come up is to, I'm going to ask Dr. A.J. Stovall to come up for Dr. Beckley. Thank you. AJ, this is for Dr. Beckley. Dr. Dial is going to work out our final signature on this. But I wanted to thank Dr. Beckley because what Dr. Beckley did was he responded to a request that was made from Memphis, from some people in Memphis. He reached out, and what he did was he invited us in. He was open, and he pointed us to Mayor DeBerry. And so I wanted to give that to Dr. Beckley with all our appreciation and love for his openness in terms of engaging in this particular process. And of course, the next person is to Mayor DeBerry. I don't think I have to say what he means to me and to all of us in this process. He is your mayor. He's my mayor now. That's who I call him, my mayor. And so, Mayor DeBerry, we just appreciate you for taking the lead here, and that's what we need. We need this whole initiative is about people assuming leadership. As Dr. King talked about, stepping up to the plate, and let's make changes let's be the change that we want to see in our children. So thank you so much. Okay. And the final book, I want to go to Dr. Jones, Dr. Juanita Jones. She served as sort of coordinator for us on this, and she was just always there. I could always, she's just like, call me 7:30 in the morning, anything that you need, you know, if I can't do it, I'll point you to the right person. So Dr. Jones, thank you for being there and just being a source of help to us in this process. So, and we do have, that book is actually for sale. And I think what we'll do is, before we leave, there is a little order form that you can buy. It's really very reasonable. It's an interesting book about, in fact, I always like to, I keep one just because, I mean, there are a lot of different things in this book, but I think that the one poem that I always like to read, and I still do a lot of work with young people, and we've had a chance to talk about this particular poem. It's a very short poem. I used to know the page number for it. Here it is. And the book is page 43, and I'm going to just read it really quickly to you. And it's called An Eagle Nation. It really tells you this, let me just say, America is an eagle nation raised by a chicken population. It is not deaf, but it is dumb. It can hear, but can't listen. It could fly, cause it has wings, but the chicken institutions are running things. Every birth of a baby in the nation gives rise to hope that the nation may fly, but none of that hope has escaped the rage of the old chickens who are in charge of the baby eagle's cage. The young people that I work with, when they hear this, it stimulates them to understand who is America, who am I in America, and that's the idea here. Is that America is a nation of eagles. It's a nation of eagles, but we operate according to the status quo, which keeps us acting like chickens. And so, with that being said, it's just one of the poems. It's really got some other interesting poems in there. That's just the one that I use with urban kids and where I work at in DC, and they are greatly stimulated by the possibility that they can be a part of making America the country that it was intended to be. So with that being said, I want to just open up by telling you thank you again, and I want to just reintroduce myself and why I'm here, because it is what we're about to do here. It is in fact life-changing, and there's so much. I mean, as people asked questions last night, there was some things that I did hold back on. I think it's Pastor Royal here. Is it you? Is someone here? Dr. Wilson is here with you. I talked with him a little bit about it after the class, and he said, yeah, you might blow their minds here. So we're going to talk about mind-blowing things here today, guys. And so what we're going to do, sort of like, before I get into my intro, well, let me tell you, I'm just open up like this. I want to say I am the answer. How about that? I want to say that because I want you to know that I am here with you, consciously with you here today. You know, and I'm here, and that's important. I want you to know that that's where I have to be, and that's where you have to be. You got to be here, present today, and conscious about what we are about to do here. I want you to go to, you know, don't think about what you've been doing. Let's think about what's possible here. And so with that being said, what I want you to know is I come with some answers to some problems that we've struggled with for a long, long time. And I mean, they are answers that get to the root cause of those problems. And as you'll see, is the more and more you understand what those problems are, and you get to the basic, we say we have basic research on those problems, we are talking about you get to one thing and you get to yourselves. You get to who you are. And that's really where you have to go. If this is humaculture, humaculture is this new science that I talk about. And humaculture, I say that with emphasis, is the science for how to raise human babies to live at their natural capacity. I'm talking about understanding the nature of the Homo sapien baby. I had Dr. Dio say, make sure you use Homo sapien. It is, we do need to use that word because Homo sapien really gets to understanding who we are in the world, you know, each of us individually, who each of us is. And so humaculture gets to the truth about who each of us is, that each of us has within us this unique, unlimited qualities that we have not been stimulated and brought forward and put on the table so we can take advantage of that baby in each of us. So we're going to actually talk about how to do that today, because you have to do that in order to get to solutions. You really do have to get it all the way down to who am I in the problem? How do I contribute to the problem? How do I solve the problem? How does the problem impact me? And how do I solve the problem with science? Scientifically solve the problem. I'm talking about with precision. And so that it can be replicated, so that it can be given to someone else and it can be carried on. So in this first morning session, what we're looking at, just according to your agenda, we're going to look at talking about that expertise of humaculture. We already understand the where, you know, and the where, I mean, we're going to get it going on right here in Holly Springs, Mississippi. That's the where. We're going to get it going on, okay? The when is right now. Yesterday, we got it. We started already getting it going on in Holly Springs, Mississippi, at the point that Dr. Beckley said, oh yeah, and at the point that Mayor DeBerry said, oh sure, it got off the ground at that point. So what we're going to do is now we understand the where and the when. We're going to talk about the how. What is the how-to of getting done what it is that we need to get done? Thank you. Thank you. I don't really do a lot of speaking, so I forget that it really dries your mouth out. I mean, I do talk to a lot of people, but you know, like public speaking, I don't get a chance to do a lot of that. I talk to a lot of you on the phone, and I do a lot of phone time. I talk all the time, but you know, when you get up before a crowd and speak, it's something about the adrenaline and whatever. It just sort of kind of takes all your moisture away or something. So the what I got to tell you, and I really don't want to lecture at you, but I do have to give you some information, okay? But I do want at the same time that if it's not making sense, you know, and I'm not saying, when I say making sense, let me kind of hold that up, and I want you to understand what the words that I'm saying, okay? Now, it might seem a little foreign, because I'm not suggesting that, you know, you're going to understand all that I'm going to say, everything I say with every moment, but I want you to understand the words that I'm using, and if you understand what that, you know, those things is what I want you to understand. What's going to happen in this discussion, we do have some absolutely great tools for having you to really get to an understanding of what we're talking about. I'm just going to try to facilitate and guide you through that process. And so it will become clear to you, each person, in fact, you know, because every one of us, you know, we learn at different pace and all of that. So it's going to become clear to more people, some people at different times. And that's wonderful. That's the uniqueness of each of us. But the idea here, again, is to understand that what we bring is a science that is designed to get to the root cause of what we call the Big Five. Now, I've talked to each one of you individually, and I think many of you, I've mentioned the Big Five to you. And, but today I'm talking to you as a group about this problem that we have in this country. And so we are, in the Big Five is essentially, you know, help me name them. My staff can name them real quick. Dr. Shasulo, what's one of the Big Fives?
Poverty.
Poverty. Dr. Dio, what's the second one? One of them.
Crime.
Crime. Okay. Dr. Zinga?
Ineffective education.
Okay, it's an ineffective education. I just like to say poor education. People know. Poor meaning not sufficient to give the individual what he or she needs to be successful. Okay? We got articles about what's happening around these issues too. People, and what's the other one? Dr. Aloye, can you talk? Are you in
Yes, irrelevant political social initiative.
He's talking about programs, but
That's correct.
so we're talking about the biggest one. The biggest one. You wanted to say something about
race,
Ethnic.
ethnic and or divisiveness.
you can call it whatever, but you know.
Yeah. Let me tell you, we don't use the term race. Yeah.
I know.
Okay. And we don't because of you know, scientifically, you know, that, you know, the scientists have decided that there's no such a thing as a race. It used to be that, you know, people were broken. I used to study it because I was a biologist. I really liked biology. So when people talked about, you know, they talked about the Mongoloid, the Mongoloid, the Negroid, all of those things. That's just been totally, it has no scientific basis whatsoever. That what has happened, and that's why we don't use the term, but it's really from our context, there's really only one race, and that's the human race. Mm-hmm. And that everything else regarding the human being really breaks down along their cultural or their ethnic ethnic, E-T-H-N-I-C, ethnic background. Basically, what part of the world were you born in? You know, I mean, where's your mom? Where'd you come from? And ethnic culture is how you do things. So you know, for those of us who are African Americans, we look like we look because our folks came from Africa. You know, so there's a way that we had to look because of where the sun was and all of that kind of stuff. And the same thing with European Americans. They had to they had to be look a certain way with the thin nose and the thin lips because of the way that the air and the cold where they were born. All had to do with, our looks were shaped by that. It had nothing to do with what folks used to say had to do with your overall intellect or how you look because you were shaped a certain way. You know, none of that is relevant. It's outdated information.
That's
and
right.
So it is old information. And as human beings, one of the things that we have the ability to update. We must update. It's no different. I mean, think about typewriter, you know. I was dealing with, my sister was talking about, she doesn't like, she's got a mouse, she's got a, what do you call a laptop, but she wants to get a mouse. And I said, well, a mouse, it's got a mouse. All you got to do is use your fingers. And she's like, I'm not comfortable with using my fingers. But the fingers is really the most natural things to use. You know, and so, but she's learning to update. She's having to deal with, because she's comfortable with the mouse, the free mouse, you know, the one that's attached to the cord, the one that's not built in. So you have to update. And in updating, what happens? Your body reacts. It's like, oh, this ain't comfortable for me anymore, because I used to do it this way. But now I got to do it a whole different way. That's uncomfortable.
Feel a little frustrated.
You know? Huh?
Begin to feel a little frustrated.
Yeah, and it can be. It can be a little frustrating because you're comfortable with the way things are. You know, and so when you so when you have to get beyond that comfort level, your body reacts. It's like you start thinking about little stuff like, I mean, you know, I have to, we actually have exercise. I personally have to exercise that myself. I mean, I go internal and deep breathe and say, okay, I'm not going to say this to this person. I mean, I really have to take it in and make a decision on how important it is to get across something to another person so that they can have what I have. So, crime, ethnic hate or divisive. You know, people just being we're not sure about other people and what they talk about, so we're not comfortable with them. We're talking about crime, ethnic hate, poverty, poor education, and poor health. Those are what we call the big fives that impact all of us. And those are the things that we can solve. Yeah. I am the answer to crime. I am the answer to ethnic hatred. I am the answer to poverty. I am the answer to poor education. I am the answer to poor health. So once you understand that you, as an individual, can solve those things yourself, we don't have to look for I don't have to look outside of my body, but outside of me, you know, to solve those things. I can look within myself to solve those things. And so, and then what we can do is I can connect with other people who have that interest. Humanity, in fact. That's when it goes from coming to that realization that you have that answer, that I am the answer for myself. It is really a psycho decision. It is a decision that I must make for myself. Okay? And then I can make it social. I can take my decision to solve those problems, and I can make a proposal to another person to join me. And let's come together and solve these problems. Let's solve these problems together. Let's use our collective, unique qualities to solve those problems together. And so that really is breaking it down to a very essential point, but that really is all it takes, is being able to come together with people and solving those problems together. So, and taking advantage of the scientific approach that we use to do that. Dr. Dyer, were you about to say something?
No.
Okay. She was looking at me.
Well, one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just when the board is being signed, people signing in, just want to make sure it's going around.
Please do. We didn't get all of you last night, and we really want to keep a great record of that, of everybody who was out last night, as well as everybody who was in today, who is in today. So that's very important about understanding human culture. And there's some great material in your book that we can review on this topic. Let me just go through it and we can come back to that material. Is that now this one is a little different. This really gets you to understand the power of the person. Is that there is no institution that is greater than the people who set the institutions up. Just think about that for a minute. There is no institution greater than those individuals who set it up. So we talk about your big institutions in this country, your educational institutions, your religious institutions, your social institutions, business institutions, corporate institutions. All of those, as a home is an institution, actually. There is none of those institutions are greater than those people who are in the institution. That it is the people who always maintains the principal power over the institution. That's where life is. Starts with the person. And what is the most common thing about, some of the most common things that we have about life is that, where does life start?
With the woman.
Sister. Life starts with the mother, with the sister, with the woman. So human culture is a science that starts with life, and life starts with women, with sisters who give life. We are the life givers. Let's get to the female babies, right? Yes. So that we can get the right stuff in that system. Yes. That baby gonna fly. We gonna move that baby from a chicken to an eagle. When we put the right stuff in that baby girl. Now hear me out. Don't listen to what I'm not saying. Listen to what I am saying. Okay? Because all I'm doing is saying what I'm saying. I'm not talking about anything outside of that at this moment. So, again, I want to just emphasize the personal impartation action on the baby is what shapes that baby. It is what shapes that baby. You know, we were asking each of you, I said, we want to get a bio. We have a different bio. We asked you, when you went to elementary school, what's your mom and dad's name? I'm not talking about when the baby is born. I'm talking about when the sperm and the egg come together. It's there. It's in them. It's inside of them. It's part of who they're made up as a human, as a Homo sapien baby. We are made phenomenally. In us, you see this? We can, in every baby, and we include us too, right? Because we all at one point were some babies, right?
Absolutely.
Imaginate, think new thoughts, create new perceptions and perspectives, reflect, dream new ideas, gather new facts, improve on or discard old things, create new civilizations, language, the internal drive to survive. Do you know what the internal drive to survive really means? The internal drive to survive, you ain't got to teach nobody no survival skills. We know how to survive. It's innate, it's in us. We'll survive. You ain't got to teach no, that's why people talk about, you going to teach some life skills? I ain't going to teach no survival skills. People know how to survive. We the survivingest people in the world. We don't have to teach them that. So we're talking about, we need to teach life skills, like thriving skills. How do you, because actually some of the skills that it takes to survive really is just the opposite of what you need to do to be prosperous. You know, I mean, you know, a lot of times with survival, you have to hold on to stuff. I mean, to be prosperous, you can't do that. You can't be holding on to stuff if you're going to be prosperous. You got to let go. You got to let go so it can get out there. And so it can multiply. So it would work to your advantage. If you're going to be, you want to really get wealth, you can't be trying to hold on to no stuff. You got to let it go. You got to let people know, and you got to let it go. And you got to know how to be in a relationship with people. Those things, yes, good. Okay. So, and it's not a typographical error. He is absolutely correct. Ethnicity is a term that comes out of trying to get to who is the uniqueness of the individual human being. You know, we know who we are ethnically. You're either European or African American or Native American or blah 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 blah. You're in a group, right?
That's
You're
right.
in a group. Ethnicity says you are, yes, you are in a group, but you also are unique within your group. It gets to who you are as the individual in your group.
That's right.
Okay? I think I gave this example one time. It's like if you got a brick wall, right? What's a brick wall made of?
Bunch of bricks.
Individual bricks. So ethnicity is to culture what these individual bricks are to that wall. Okay? So you got to get to the uniqueness. Basically, ideas and creation start with the individual person. You know, a group usually don't come together and say, oh, I got an idea. Even if you did, one person came up with it. So ethnicity is who is this sister right here in her uniqueness. That she brings something unique to the group that nobody else has.
That's right.
Nobody else has, and she has that. That's her identity. That's who she is in the group. Now she might be in 20 different groups, but it's who she brings in that group. That's the important thing. Got it? And it really is a concept that comes out of human culture. It's a concept that human beings, we have left out the greatest resource in the world, and that is who is the Homo sapien baby? Who is the human being? We just haven't put that in there. We haven't really developed and stimulated human beings to help them grow to their greatest capacity. But we want to bring to the babies, a whole new knowledge of information that they don't have, they've not been exposed to. And that's what we must, and I'm talking about all babies. I'm talking about the whole human race of babies, okay? I'm not talking about just some people's babies. I'm talking about, this knowledge is not out, this knowledge is not formalized knowledge that's been put out there. And that's the unique thing that we have here today, is to take this and make it become formalized knowledge, we must get this into our education systems. We must teach our children who they are, and when I say who they are, it's not esoteric, it's like how they think, that they have these qualities in them, you know, and it's only esoteric in the fact that these qualities are something you can't put your hands on, but they are real qualities. You can't put the hands on the wind either, but you know it's there. You know, so I mean, so we want to get that. What Holly Springs again has the opportunity here is to take this and make this a form. You know, we want to demonstrate this. We want to document this with you, okay? And we want to have our educational systems here in Holly Springs be a educational opportunity and enterprise to get this across the country. You know, what we talking about here, y'all? We are talking about what? We are talking about economics.
Yeah.
We are talking about how I mean, other people make, how many people, how much money you think people making off them books that's already in there? You know, that's a whole industry of writing and printing and publication and marketing and all of that. So we're talking about marketing a whole new knowledge that's going to help that baby really get to a greater and the greatest awareness of who they are in an educational system that we can document and we can show the impact of that. And talk about it and tell somebody about it. You got good news, you don't tell no, but some people tell bad news about other people. But when you have, I mean, good news is to be shared. When I say economics and wealth, it's about getting it out there. You know, it does not do you any good. That's just, I mean, I know Mr. Jones can cite me, or he gonna back me up on this. You got a product, it does not do you no good. It does not do you any good. I do. I do have some education in the room. It does not do you any good to keep, tell everybody about it. You never will get we won't get rich. You won't get, what's the purpose of having something that's great and you sitting up on it and ain't doing nothing with it? It's like, are you kidding me? She said south. And we also, for those of you that know, we didn't get introduction, but we also have Robert Smith. Okay.
The judge looked at
Columbus, Mississippi. Y'all know what Columbus is? Okay, she gonna check out what Woodville is.
What is it near?
Southwest Mississippi. It's close to Natchez, Mississippi, and it's very, very close to Baton Rouge. We're about 45 minutes north of Baton Rouge. Way
And I'm going to tell you, it is wonderful to have these two mayors here because there is no reason they can't have their own model city. In fact, that's what we like for them to lead with, the commitment that they're going to join their DeBerry and creating their own model city, so that we can have 3 points of connection. You know, there's a magic about 3, science of 3, in fact. You got 3 people, you got going on. It's a success, is what that means. So we could very quickly, with your support and your decision to do that, we could really change the Mississippi like that. I mean, listen to her. So Dr. Dyer, I brought Dr. Dyer up with me because she's going to help me with the Declaration of Independence. It is, tell us where it is, Dr. Dyer.
It is in your Book of America. The very first.
Oh, let me see, I got some notes about it. The essence of this country and the essence of who we are. It was really a turning point in the lives of, in the whole life of human beings. You know, to have a country that comes out and say, and we haven't really socialized this fully yet, but to say that rather than the king being in charge, we're gonna let the people be in charge. Now that's powerful. The king ain't, we forget the king. In fact, Richard Henry Lee. Richard Henry Lee was formidable. He was the person who really helped them to understand, because they were trying to negotiate, you know, for freedom. Get away. They were trying to negotiate. And he was the one to say, let's get that. I'm sick of talking to the king. Let's forget about the king. And let's just go on and be free. We can't negotiate freedom. You got to go on and get your freedom and move on. So his famous words were, Richard Henry Lee.
Oh, you mean Patrick Henry?
Yeah, Patrick Henry.
Give me liberty and give me death.
Give me death. You know, that set it all up. And freedom is worth dying for. I mean, that's true. It is true. Give me liberty or give me death. So this document is a reflection of that breaking away. Is what it is. It is it really lays that out. And it's just elegant. It was penned, written by Jefferson, and it was just elegant in terms of what it says. It says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and natures of God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. In other words, he's saying that when you get to that point, you at least got to let people know this is where you are. I declare I am going, we're free. You basically have to, when you reach that decision, you have to declare it.
That's right.
And state it, move forward. So these four, they're written out here as paragraphs, but they really are clauses that lay the framework for us in this country. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This particular document puts the power in the hands of the people. Now they say men, but it was written, it was written in that time, written in 1700. So it was written in language that reflected that time. But the only thing you have to think about this is men are not created.
No, born.
They're born, rather. They're not born. Babies are born. So the language really is to all babies. All babies are born, are created equal. They are endowed with their Creator. So the point is here, this particular paragraph is talking about each human baby who is a citizen of this country. It's really the world, but we're going to try to keep it in America. So, we're going to start in America. And so, the third one talks about the rights that the governments are instituted. Now remember we said there's no institution greater than the person, but governments are instituted among men, and they derive their power from who? The people. From the people. From the governed. We are the governed. So we give them the power. In that government, government institution fails to carry out the wishes of the people, that we must reorganize things. It says here that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends. It is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed. In other words, you don't do this haphazardly. It will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
So we have you all here. I can't even begin to tell you how much so, because I do know that this is very, very necessary, and it's a very historical moment in America, because I have never witnessed African American people, European American people coming together to want to have this collectively. That's what Dr. King was about. That's what he meant when he said, and his I Have a Dream speech in 1963, August 28th, 1963 in Washington, D.C. He was talking to all America to live this out, because he said, I have a dream that my little children, and he was talking about all children, would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. We have not done this, people. Today is the day to start. The differences do not make a difference. We are all Homo sapien babies. We were born, conceived, and born equal. When Thomas Jefferson sat down to write out the Declaration of Independence, the most beautiful thing that happened was that he went to his mind, even though he was in a culture of slavery. We still live in a culture of slavery. It's a psychological thing. We must all know today that we have a mind that we can choose to be free. We live in the country that says, when the founding fathers came over, when the Europeans came to America, they were looking for freedom. They did not want to bow down to the king any longer. So they came and made this happen. America is the outpost for the world. Do you know, if we got it together today, European and African American people got it together today, Dr. King will roll over in his grave, because that's the reason why he was willing to lay the supreme price. He wanted us to come together and be who we really are. And that's the Homo sapien that's inside of each of us that has never been discovered. It is a scientific terminology for human being. And nobody can take it away from you. You can choose to give it away. But each one of us, when we were conceived in our mother's womb, we received everything we needed to be free people. So today, of all days, we are talking about not only celebrating Dr. King's birthday, we're talking about elevating and actualizing his dream. Make it real, people, today. You can do it in your own minds today, right now. It is time. Our children are dying because we have not done this. That's why they do what they do, because they're trying to figure us out. They're trying to figure out, what are they talking about? It makes no sense. So today, let's make sense together and make America what it really is. The outpost for the world. The freedom that everybody is looking for. Whether they're in Iraq, Pakistan, it doesn't matter. Africa, wherever. People are looking for us to come together. We call it Umoja, which is one of the principles of Kwanzaa. Everybody needs to know about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Umoja is unity. We really are one race, the human race. And we're all Homo sapien babies. So that's why this particular document is so fundamental and so necessary for each of us to know, for ourselves, not for somebody else, but for yourself, that you really are who you have been declared to be. One who has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And each one of us has that responsibility. See, a duty goes with this. And that's why you're here today, so you can carry that duty out. So that you can leave this inheritance to all the children. It doesn't matter about where they live, or who they are, who their parents are. We want the children to have their future so that they can have what Dr. King was talking about. He paid the supreme price for me to even be here today and for each of you to be here today. And I do commend you, Mayor Andre DeBerry, for stepping up to the plate. You talking about rising to meet the occasion. You did, brother, and I want to thank you for it. So let's rise with Mayor Andre DeBerry in Holly Springs, Mississippi today to let the world know that we want the American dream that Dr. King was talking about. We're talking about both social and financial wealth. You cannot have the financial unless you have the social. So I want to thank you over and over and over again for being here, because you can make it happen. Can't you see yourselves just plastered all over the place? And CN get a hold of this.
You going to hell? No, you gonna go to heaven. No, Tay, that's okay. Education is so good.
You're gonna do sure, man.
We come up with training. Dr. Flash, he's up there. We don't need all that
Oh, she going. Oh, y'all taking her? Okay.
Yeah, they gonna have limited over here.
Okay. Kind of limited. Okay. But in the meantime, I like what Brother Muhammad has already here in Holly Springs. Good quality. If you say resources, be specific.
Okay, yeah. That's what I was doing. We have to go outside of Holly Springs. We have to
All these farmers, for some reason, they want their kids going to school there. It was just mind-boggling. I used to go there all the time to work. It was a school. I used to work for a law firm, and I'd go out there every day.
Issues associated with the crime and what we want to see. We broke it down into different categories. Reasons for crimes, we started with that first, with juveniles. Dealing with juveniles only because we have an issue here in Marshall County with juveniles. and I found out also in Columbus, Mississippi, working with the mayor. Some of the reasons for crime in juveniles would be poverty, growing up in poverty, parenting skills or lack thereof parenting skills, children basically having children, peer pressure, not taught any values, no consequences about the actions that they might be doing associated with crime, or they don't think about the consequences involved. And also talked about, again, babies having babies, and they're not being equipped to teach their children properly. Where do we want to go from here? We discussed doing an extensive media campaign to talk to parents about their children getting in trouble, talk about values in the education system, and pulling together different agencies to help with teaching parents how to talk to their children, how to treat their children, and bring their children up in proper ways. And some of the agencies that we talked about was the educational system, of course. Government agencies, like I work with the Marshall County Justice Court, Marshall County in particular, bringing together all type agencies. And of course, we could not leave out the churches. Churches could play a very valuable part there. And did I leave out anything? Okay, that's as far as the juveniles were concerned. We didn't talk that much about the adults because some of them are moving over, but unemployment was one of the issues associated with adult crimes. Education, meaning might be high school dropouts, but have not been taught basic skills to even be employable, which I didn't. I had to talk about. I didn't realize that there are some people probably younger than I am that don't know how to use electronic devices, because I'm used to babies having to teach me how to use electronic devices. I never thought about adults not knowing how to use it. And even here in Holly Springs, because my children went to school here, they had computer classes growing up in schools, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed about my children going to school here. Holly Springs school system had courses on how to use computers early on in the school systems here. Drug abuse, alcoholism, it plays a major part. Mental issues that have grown up in children, and it transposes a lot of people end up in the criminal justice system here because of mental issues, and it's not being recognized. And also, adults have learning disabilities. And we also talked about ways to address those mental illnesses, and people working in the government agencies being able to recognize and address those issues. Thank you.
Okay.
Ethnicity, and I had the opportunity to work with these two in particular, where that's what ethnic grouping and trying to bridge the gaps with a lot of our stuff that we deal with in the South of racism. And I was blessed to be able to work with these two from New York. So they had already, in Brother Moses, Pastor Moses, broad sense of comparison. I think that's sometimes we don't get in Holly Springs. We are born and raised here, and very seldom we venture further than 20, 30 miles away from here. So we have no sense of comparison. So we don't have anything to look at. We don't have any models, which you're trying to build here. So we began to talk about what she said the other night about the parks and how it could be an avenue to begin to bring the children together. As you bring the children together, then they grow up together, then the society is not as divided because it's not learned. It's learned behavior instead of taught behavior. Racism is taught so often. You're taught to forget about all the things that you saw as a young child if you played with white and black. It was a mixed culture at a certain point in our lives, even in the South. But at a certain age, you begin to go into another part of society where it's not acceptable. So we addressed those issues. Me and Charles Terry in particular talked about some of the things that we already know exist, but I also expand on the importance of recognizing the history of racism and the history of bigotry. And the young lady there pointed out it was fear. And we all understand that fear sometimes is bred by ignorance. So when you begin to inform people of who they are and whose they are, with Dr.
Dr. Lebo have always been talking about this morning, then you can remove the fear. I have a right to be angry. Most of us have a right to be angry about something in our past. But you also have a right to change who you are and don't become what the system has designed you to be. So we begin to talk about those major inroads could be made in various areas. One in particular, where I have something to do with is scouting. I think if we had, maybe if it was a different scout group on the other side of town that gravitate, if they just intermingle periodically at what they call jamborees and outings, we got plenty of woods, so we can create those parks. I think Holly Springs have lovely parks. I think what I was telling the young lady there was we have to maybe encourage people to go to the parks. Bring your ice chest, go to the park. We just don't have that mentality. In the city, after a long week, a lot of families pack up and head toward the local park. And sometimes they stay there for the entire weekend. You know, and if it's a 30-mile drive, some they even stay in a hotel and go back to that park. So we talked about that. I think the main thing that we discussed that would make a major difference is coming together as a group of artists, and she happened to be an artist. And she noticed something that was is a norm towards most artists, be it singers, be it performers, be it writers, be it musicians. They have my wife taught me this new word I'm going to use, tactile, you know? You want to touch it. You want to touch it. When you see something that's unusual, it's a tattoo person, you may not like it, but you want to come up to it and examine it and look at it. Because that's what she talked about so eloquently this morning, that Homo sapien, one to another. Here's one that's getting outside the box, one breaking the rule. So we go up and check it out closer. So as we begin to get rid of those fears, like Charles talked about the bike night, had a degree of fear. People wouldn't come to certain parts of town. I'm not going down the alley. And most of the time it's not real fear anyway, it's just something they done told them to be afraid of. So then they perpetuate fear. And really what they're doing is perpetuating ignorance. Because once you come down to bike night and notice that your life is not threatened, and these people are human beings, are part of that Homo sapien gene pool, then you say, oh, it's not so bad. And I've learned enough in art, particularly African art, that somewhere deeper into our subconscious, we crosses that line like she talks about. That's why African art is something almost like a universal art. Everybody can appreciate the primitive texture of the African art, something that has been uninterrupted, unabated, but a pure thought, a pure expression. So I think that's what we want to look at, maybe bridging those gaps in those cultural areas, is beginning to tear down those walls of fear. She also noticed one of the things that Mississippi as a whole, not only Hot Spring offered, that she didn't see a lot of time, is the artists, the concentration of our talent. Every church you go to, I can look at people that sing on the level of anybody. I would compare them to anyone. The musicians in those places. There's Ann. You know, I got a cousin in Memphis, and they all around us have got extreme talent. But when do we create a guild? When do we create an atmosphere? When do we invite the other side of town that is accustomed to a high quality of culture, to invite them, not to solicit anything to them, but just to expose them to the Doxy Center with a beautiful play that talks about Holly Springs, that was been written by Brother Moses, that shows the Holly Springs culture and the difficult, written by this man or talked to by this experience that you said in the table, that are you a Yankee? Are you them Yankees that live back there? And then he said they shared something. He said, do you know the difference between, I'm not a Baptist. There's two types of Yankees, a Yankee and a damn Yankee. The first Yankee, just the Yankee is the one to visit. That damn Yankee come and stay. So I thought there was something. I thought that was good. So those are some things that we have to, those are some things that we still have to approach and honestly tear down those walls, even though it's presented to us in the form of humor, so it won't be so emotional. So, any other questions? But that's what I think we talked about. We do that.
You got all that on a piece of paper?
Yeah. If we're going to move on this, I want to definitely get in touch with her, and because of her artistic background. I also speak on a show that I've been trying to get to compile a list of artists. If anyone can help us with that. I'm working at the Spring Garden. I saw Pastor Moses out there at the Spring Garden. It is a small little area that we used to call Rankin Circle, but I want to get into the habit of calling it what it is now. It is Spring Garden. And so we want to go out there and compile a list. And that may be one of those many models. And I've been talking to Mayor because it's something that's isolated. If we talk about God getting the glory, if we do not allow Spring Garden to become what it once was, then God will automatically get the glory. You know, it wouldn't be no other working but His. So we don't want to return. So I think that approach that will start there for me. And as we see it take effect and be effective, I think we can do it for the city. And it don't take a whole lot. You got thespians all around us. People want to act out. There's one right there from our church, and we have several of them in our church. And then we got the music. We like we did the reenactment with Brother Moses and Asbury. We have it already in place.
Absolutely.
Try to use race relations, but now that she have equipped me with this new ideology about that is Homo sapien, because we are one. People know me, I say one love.
Yes.
Because there's only one love. I don't care how you try to manifest your love for something, it's only one love.
Absolutely.
Self and self-kind.
Can I please say something? Wasn't even a part of your group, but I remember something that Sue, the reporter that came yesterday, was taking pictures and when I was participating, volunteering at the I.B. Wells museum behind the exhibit and stuff. When I was out there face painting, she talked about, you know, that's not just a black thing.
Right.
You know, we should send invitations out to all members of our community, to the all the businesses and stuff, and get them involved. Just let them know, you know, just come and see. At least invite them so that we will get a
Right.
multiple.
We talked about that, Eddie, about making the inroads, and particularly the couple that joined us. It would be important for them to make those inroads, or to have your white friends to begin to associate, tear down some of those stereotypes. When the jokes become uncomfortable because you said you're Paul, you can't stand bigotry. So then you not only can you have the luxury of leaving it, you have to speak to it, and it has to be a delicate way, like he was talking about, and a way where they can receive it, because it has to be talked about. If not, we do not make inroads. Charles noticed one of the things that we all probably have noticed. If an African American do an event, you won't get much white participation. But when my white brothers and sisters have an event or parade, we flock, because it's not a challenge so often for us to bridge the gap. We're ready to go across the river, sometimes too quickly and sacrificing too much. So we have the spirit to bridge the gap. So often it's the other, and we see it. During the campaign, they'll be around, even as a friend almost. And if they're secured in their office, you won't see them. And these are things that we can't ignore. They are real. Now, how do we talk about it? Can we talk about them without offending? And I'm going to call my uncle, because I think I know him, and he's devoted to this community. Regardless, contrary to what we think about it, he's devoted to this community, and he felt like he's probably like Clarence Thomas sometimes, being torn from two sides.
Right.
But it's hard with this time. I know this.
But we paying.
You know, but you know, not totally like that. But you know, you think about it, we produce an individual like Clarence Thomas or anyone else, picked on him, mistreated him, then when you get to the position of authority, you want to run up and talk about some black. It has nothing to do with it. You did not treat him as one. So we have to be mindful that those things exist. And we have to.
Yeah, discussions, because one of the things is when you talk about, this is a very sensitive issue of black and white. And the only way that we can talk about it has to do with, we have to talk about it factually. You know, we can't talk about it based on feelings and emotions. We have to talk about what are the facts about it. One of the things that we did, and you can build policy around this in terms of how you talk about it, when Dr. King said we still you know, deal with black and white. That's how we got to stop relating that way. One of the things that we did, that the researcher did, he made a policy, and he started putting it out there. He said, we're going to stop calling people black and white. Let's not use that terminology anymore to say who we are, that it does not define us. So it will no longer be a defining point. So we use the terminology that deals with our continent of origin, continent of origin, and what we all have in common here in this country is being an American. So African American, European American, Native American, Jewish American, and go on. So that way we give honor to our origin, country of origin, but we also connect with the fact that we're all Americans. Our civic connection is here. So we make a part. We don't use the terminology. We don't refer to ourselves as black, and we don't refer to other people as white. The other thing is that we approach everything from the standpoint of no blame and no shame. Not a single person today is responsible for what happened in slavery.
That's right, that's right.
Nobody, none of us living today, nobody is responsible for that. You know, but it's in our history. And we can learn from it, we can get the facts on it, and then as a result of having the facts, we can change it. So we really approach it, no blame, no shame. You know, there's no shame in it at all. It happened. So slavery is what I mean. That's the it. That was the uniqueness. That was the one thing that happened in this country that really brought to a halt the best progressive development in this country. It just sort of kind of put in there. We never really got over it. So we're paying the prices of it today because we never got over it. You know, and we kind of thought we'd get over it by saying, let's just not talk about it anymore. But, you know, it comes out. You know, it comes out. You have to really get it out. So we have ways of doing that, and we really approach it really just factually. You know, it happened what time it happened, when it started, who's responsible for it, and let's just talk about that. Okay.
And that's why I can't elevate this whole situation here that's happening today high enough, because everybody in the country can pull from what is happening today. We're having somewhat of a debriefing, and so we can be the core of making certain that it gets around the country. And so that continuity is going to be critical, that we stay together. Umoja, U-M-O-J-I-A. Make sure we stay together to make sure that it happens. And I understand that Dr. Juanita Jones is going to make that certain.
I'm going to say this, I'm not going to be as long as the others because sometimes the little small things are enough. We know that our young people, children are born with an intellect, and it's up to parents to begin that education. Education begins at home, but we feel that education is, if it's not the most important, it is one of the most important of the big five.
Yeah.
I see that we all overlap.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to overlap.
Exactly.
But one of the problems that we brought forth in our groups, and there are many problems in education, there is a lack of communication between parents, teachers, and administrators, and the community. And we may as well throw in the children in there too. So if we can work on this big problem, we can solve quite a number of things. And one of the, we need to change their mindset. Each one of us has a different way of doing things, but all of us have to come together and change mindsets. And one of the ways we said we could do it is by training our teachers, our parents, our teachers, and administrators. And how do we train them? Someone suggested that we hire someone in the system, but I think we may have agreed on hiring someone who's neutral. And this does not mean money, because we know that Dr. Kilo, Dr. Dottie, all those of you who are with us, you have the research, you have the tools for doing this. So we feel that if we can train the parents and the teachers and administrators and even the community to come together with one mindset, then we can work toward completing our goals. One of the ways of doing this, of course, once we train the individual people, then we have group meetings. We talk about the child. We talk about the strengths and the weaknesses and we build from there. We did a lot of talking in our group, and I think we are ready to begin whatever. But this is where we want to start from.
Okay.
We want to start. We want to change the mindset.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
Very good.
Thank you.
Hearing goes back to education, everything.
Yeah.
And health certainly goes back to education. Health literacy is one of my passions. I have retired as an English professor, and I am going to be working toward health literacy here in Mississippi. Don't quite know how yet, but it'll happen. So what we talked about was actually getting the message to the parents, the mothers, about healthy eating, and we've already started doing some of that with the Head Start here. We've already started sending home literature, so perhaps we could do that in other areas too, to send home, because someone mentioned the soul food, and of course you know what soul food is, and you know how good it is. So we were thinking, how do we take soul food and season it without lard? And make it taste good, without pork, and make it taste good. Well, I'll bet there are some cooks who are ingenious enough to be able to do that. So maybe it wouldn't taste quite like enough that we could substitute, enough that we could teach the parents how to cook. And of course, we know that we're in a situation where so many of our mothers are single mothers, or if they have a father in the home, both are working to try to make ends meet. And so the quickest way to have supper and the cheapest way is to go to McDonald's. So we have to break that cycle. We have to show parents there are easier ways to feed our children. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some education. It's going to take some teaching the parents the importance of doing this, even when they're so tired, they just want to go home. And we all can relate to that, can't we? Another person brought up the fact that we don't have enough physicians, mental health workers in this area, because we are a poverty-stricken area. And frankly, a doctor makes more money in Memphis or Oxford than he does here, or than she does here. So I don't know how to begin to address that. I don't know that we can address it until the whole cycle has been reversed. But what we can do is start trying to grow up healthier children so they don't need the doctor quite as much as those who are obese. And obesity, of course, brings on every kind of disease you can think of. So
That's
I
right.
suppose, is that about all we discussed?
Well, thank you so much.
I would like to start off by connecting with your subject matter, that talking about health. Our health system is really broken, because now you see on TV everybody's got a cooking program trying to get you to cook it like this, cook it like this. But scientific information has come out now that most of our food now is being denatured. That's when you got so many sick people in this country or in this world. The food looks good, but it don't have no value to it. It's been genetically raised, alterated. Every seed that you probably can get now has been scientifically, genetically altered. So now we have to find a seed now to grow our own product, and that's tying with some of the poverty that we talked about from the poverty table, that how we can define poverty. So I'm going to leave that to Stover. Did he run off?
Yeah, he tipped out.
He tipped out.
I don't know if he goes.
But he kind of went into ways that we could define poverty. This, I'm not gonna go that deep into it, but this is some of the ways that we can, kind of turn our health situation around by coming together here in Hot Spring in unity. We need to buy land. We need to pool our resources together, buy land, raise our product so we can feed our own selves. Because this country now, we can all see it here on television, this country cannot do the thing that we're talking about here in this room. It can't, it's not able, it's broke. So now we're gonna do it ourselves. That's a fact of life. Now, I like that what we're saying today is real and it's absolutely factual. We're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to do that. Because every one of us know what's going on in this country now. We done got down to that point now. We're gonna have to do it for ourselves. Ain't no need of playing around with it, because you can't do nothing else but do it, face fact of it. That's all we're gonna do. So I like what we have come together here. Yesterday I was here last night, but today we got to do just what the principle of this program is all about. You got no other choice now to do that. That's right. So now let's be like what Brother Roy used, brother, consistently. Let's be consistent on everything that we are been proposed to do, and I think it's going to be great. This is the greatest thing I've heard in a long time. And brother, I would like to say, I would like to talk with you and some of y'all church people, all our church people. We have a program, the Nation of Islam had 9 ministers. It's concerning all the principles of what's been talked about here. And one of the things is culture. And we need to bring our people together and learn about culture. We know about white culture. We've been raised up in white culture. Now we get to identify our own culture so we can have a great value to our young people that come along behind us. They don't have no culture. You know, they walk around their pants down. But, you know, we got to turn this thing all around. And I've been coming out here for 20 years, but I moved here in the last 7 months. But I moved here to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. God bless me, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a great, significant part of this. Because I had something in my hand. God had blessed me with something. Yeah, and it's going to involve all what we have talked about. And I would like to work with this group, whatever group, or whatever part I can fit in. I want to be in there. You know,
Absolutely.
It's going to take all of us to do that. So Hot Spring is a very unique city. Very unique. It's set in a very unique location, culturally, geographically, you know, very unique. And the layout that white folks done move from this side and left this side to the other. The people here can come together and just pool their resources and just grow.
That's right. That's right. The infrastructure there.
And the basic, then I'm gonna sit down. The time period, if you read the scripture, it will tell you that we are on time today. That's right. That's right. We are on time. It was predicted for us 400 years to be this way. That's when you say, you can't blame nobody. It was predicted. Here we are. We're at the end of it. Now it's our turn. Thank you. You know we take his place.
Okay, that's quite, all right, I'm gonna be good. Listen, we're talking about health of our people and knowing all of the stuff that we can't read on a can. My daughter emailed me, talking about, Mama, there's stuff that you can't read a word on that can, that's in plastic, that's used to make plastic, and you know, all this other stuff. But one thing I am concerned about, and I had mentioned it too with the mayor, I just hadn't bothered him again with it, but can somebody direct me who to get in touch with to get a soil sample for the area that I live? It's too many men coming, and people in my neighborhood coming down with prostate cancer,
That's right.
liver and bladder cancer. My husband just went for testing
Yeah.
Monday. Now, it's something wrong.
Yes.
And I want to know
And
if somebody can direct me.
The soil conservation service out here. They'll come and test your soil for you.
They're
Or else
around
you
that
can get it-
subdivision.
Yeah, or else you can get it, put it in, put it in.
Oh, they
something and send
tested,
it
you
out.
know, like we wanna grow, you know, when Master Garden, you wanna grow your soil in the garden, and they tell you what to add to it and stuff, but do they test it for
Toxicity.
chemicals and toxins and stuff like that?
You might go to DPA.
EPA, that's
Well,
what.
okay, well,
EPA, like Shirley said.
Okay.
environmental
We'll
protection.
check, we can check into that. We can
We
check. I
really
wanna
need to
just
check
go
in.
ahead,
Everybody.
we're gonna try to wrap this up so that we can put in place what we need to continue and to, accomplish what we wanna accomplish here together.
That there are so many white people who are interested in everything that's been discussed here
That's right.
today and
That's
last
right.
night.
Right.
And I'm going to bring as many as I can
Thank
find
you.
who are interested.
I hope, and that's
Like
part
you
of,
said,
that's part of the
this is-
continuity.
This is what our country needs.
Needs.
All of us to work together. That's black and white and Hispanic and Asian and everybody. And we have so much we all have so much to offer. You know, I have a Chinese girlfriend from China. We're friends many years, and I said to her one time, "Well, how do you live here? You know, isn't it hard for you, you know, to be Chinese and then live in an American culture?" And she said, "Well, here's what I do, Maureen. I take the best from the Chinese culture, and I take the best from American culture, and I leave the rest." And I thought that was such a great, you know, statement, to take the best from both. And I know a lot of white people have a burden on their heart
Right.
for black people in this country.
Right, that's
Okay,
right.
and they don't know what to do about
Tell
it.
them.
Right.
There you go. But it's so important, I feel, to say that to all of you here. Because I know so many
Tell it.
people, and they're not here tonight because of fear or
Fear, that's what I
whatever.
was just going to say.
Or
Fear.
whatever,
It's
I
fear.
don't know, but I think it's fear.
It's fear.
And,
That's right.
and so we have to really think about in the ways that we bring each other
Exactly.
That's right.
best out.
Yes.
And when you were talking about food, my mother was a vegetarian her whole adulthood. And she learned how to be a vegetarian. She learned about how to cook food. She learned that at her church. They gave courses in nutrition in her church that she went to. And that's how she learned how to be a vegetarian. So, not that I'm saying we should all be vegetarians, but we could all learn how to cook better in our churches.
Right.
And another thing, you can't eat really well if you're poor.
That's right.
Right.
It counts some, it counts some.
You cannot
Organic,
eat
right.
well if
Right.
you're poor. Pregnant women cannot eat
Eat
well.
well.
That's right.
I have a granddaughter who's almost 3 1/2. She's been sick once in 2 days. 2 days in her little life. That's it. And she's on the road all the time with her parents, and she meets all kinds of people. And she's never, ever sick. And I attribute that to fantastic eating of her mother when she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay? And breastfeeding that child. There's not enough in nutrition, not enough knowledge known for women about breastfeeding.
Exactly.
Not only
Right.
is it the highest quality of nutrition, especially if the mother eats well, but it is a love affair with your child.
Yes, it is.
It is a love affair.
Yes, it is.
An indescribable love affair when you nurse your babies for at least a year.
Exactly.
At least a year. Maeve was lucky, she wanted to nurse till she was 2.
Last thing, I was not saying, okay, my daughter, our daughter, my husband's daughter, our daughter did her dissertation in breastfeeding amongst college-educated black women. Anybody need the statistics and information on that? I can get it for you.
Well, there are a few things that I want to say to you before we leave, that I have to say to you. And one, I want to start right back here with the poverty table. we go. Next time we get there, we won't call it the poverty table. We're gonna say the wealth table. But you talked about starting with us, and that is so true. And I want to give you the example of pretty much everything that we've known in terms of coming and solving problems has pretty much come from someplace else. It doesn't start with us. It starts with, you know, somebody at the top brings something down to you. And I was asked to make sure that you all knew about HUD 2020. This was a federal program, and it's in your book. That's why.
It is no small task for you to commit the time that you committed last evening, the time that you committed today, to comment and be a part of this dialogue and this discussion. And I think your point was right on. And one of the things that we tried to do with the formulation of the exec committee was to make sure that the committee was inclusive. And inclusive in the general terms and even some more broader terms. We wanted to make sure we included based on ethnicity, education, religious, business, younger, older, whatever factor that we use in determining our society, we wanted to make sure it was there. We think we did a pretty good job of it, but one of the things, and I'm going to say this, and this is the only negative you're going to hear me say. It's not a negative. I think it's one of the negatives that came out of this, but I think it's going to work its way out. Some people cancel at the last moment, and I think you hit the point exactly on here, Maureen. I think some people are still fearful of Dr. King.